Muses, and another evening of pub crawl. We are now in night five of pub crawl, 4 nights of crawling, and then we're back on the other one. And the guest tonight is none other than REV.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, all the way from
Good.
Canada. How are things up there?
It hasn't started snowing yet, so it's good.
Oh, well, there you go. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't.
But it was cold this morning, so yeah. But it'll be here soon.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's still in the 90s where I am, so I've still been able to go out swimming and all that jazz. So it's
Oh, I went
nice.
swimming on Sunday. I was in a lake on Sunday, but it was cold. Very cold.
Oh, that sounds like the stuff they do up in Russia.
Yeah, well, it's like the whole like polar bear kind of. I was hanging out with a bunch of guys that do like the ice water dipping polar bear challenge stuff. So I figured I had to defend my honor and get in the water when they all went in. So it was just an old age stupid thing. So
oh gosh. Well, better you than me. Well, I want to welcome everyone coming in and everyone that's going to be watching on the replay. Well, tonight, the pub that REV chose for us to meet in is none other than the famous pub from Dragonlance, the Inn of the Last Home, a very popular place to meet. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, this was a pub that I was first introduced to way back in the early 80s when the first Dragonlance novel came out. Inn of the Last Home was in the town of Solace, and it was built among the Valenwood trees. All of the buildings in this town were all up in these big, ginormous wooden trees. And this pub was famous for its ale and the owner, Odic, who would make spiced potatoes. And so ever since that day, I have been a big fan of spiced potatoes and the occasional ale to go along with them too. So
that sounds so good. I bet you they would taste really good after you jump in a lake and freeze and then get to have something nice like that.
Well, right nearby the End of the Last Home, we got Crystal Mere Lake, which I'm just the name of it sounds cold. So sure it would have been nice.
Well, awesome. Well, I like it because in the Dragonlance books, when they describe all the food and the stews and the ale, you just almost feel cozy just hearing about it. Well, I want to say hello to people in the chat. Is DJ Play Nice? Good afternoon, Miss Martin. Thank you for hosting. Well, thank you for being here. Steve Kenobi is here. Same pub I picked. Yes, it's a very popular pub. Everyone's saying hello to each other. So the topic that REV has chosen this evening is none other than Dragonlance. Now, we're going to keep this, if you will, mostly spoiler-free, or at least major spoiler-free, because what I'm hoping is that people will listen to this stream and be inspired to go out and read them and experience them for the first time, as I did relatively recently. So, REV, could you give us a little bit of an introduction into the premise of Dragonlance, how it got started, what it's all about, and your experience with it?
Sure. Well, Dragonlance came out during the early 80s, really honestly, which for me was really at the height of Dungeons and Dragons and everything that TSR was doing back then. And so the book was written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, and they based a lot of it off of role-playing games that they were actually playing as a group of friends. So the characters in the books were characters that people played, and they created this entire world. And so Dragonlance, for me, is fantasy writing at its purest. It's very simple. It's very clear, good versus evil. You get some twists and turns of some characters. You're not too sure where they land and if they're going to be good or if they're going to be evil. You got, but just the whole fantasy aspect of it, it was a really good introduction to fantasy. Like that's why even to this day, I still recommend it to people who've never read a fantasy book. Sometimes fantasy books are quite intimidating. They're about 1,000 pages long, but that's like volume 1 out of 15 or something like that. And so it gets overwhelming. Where the first 3 books, you can get through it pretty easily and just really meet characters that you can connect with. even though they're elves and dwarves and humans and different people and different races, they just all connect. They just all have something about their like their characteristics, the trauma, the trials and tribulations that they're each going through as people and as characters really comes out. And the fun and the laughter in the book too is just always great to go back to. Like every time I reread Dragonlance, it's honestly like going back home and visiting old friends, because that's just how well I feel the characters were written.
Oh, wow. I can absolutely confer with that. Now, was Dragonlance originally a book series, or did it start off as a role-playing game?
That's a great question. I found the book first, but I think the modules came out first. I've never bought them. Well, I bought some of them, but I've never played them. My D&D group of friends when I was in high school, we'd play once every 7 years, so we didn't get very far in our campaign. Yeah, we were terrible at commitment. So it's a topic for another time. So anyways, so I was really just more introduced to the novels, and then even the comic series that came afterwards. But there was a big line of modules that you could play, and then they came up with campaign books and different things like that. So then you could write your own adventures, create your own campaign in this world of Krynn. So they had a lot of stuff available for it.
Yeah, and I'm just looking here. I was gonna try to share this. It's the first novel of it is Dragons of Autumn Twilight that hit the world, I think, in 82. I wish I could get a bigger picture, but this is all that I was able to get rather quickly. But this one is the first of a trilogy where we're introduced to certain characters. And I did say that to be careful on spoilers. However, general ideas like who are the main characters? Why are they here? What's the premise that sets up this book?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're introduced right away to the main characters who eventually become known as the heroes of the Lance. They're a group of friends, and their world is in kind of like a dark period where the gods of their world have left, and so there's no more healing. There's no more clerics, and so this group of friends, they were all kind of some older, some younger. They all went on individual quests to try to find evidence of the old original gods that had left. Because what was going on in their day is there were these new kind of theocrats, they were called. So basically the mix of politics and religion, and they were trying to take over certain parts of the realm, and they were kind of claiming that they had access to these deities, but no one's heard of them before. No one's worshipped them or seen any power from them. But it was a very political movement to try to take over towns and to draw worshipers. So these friends all head off on different adventures. So we meet Flint Fireforge, who's an older dwarf. We meet Tanis Half-Elven. So he was half-elf, so part elf, part human. And the wrestle that he has of not being accepted by human or being accepted by elves because of his half-blood heritage. We meet the brothers Majere, Caramon and Raceland. Caramon's a warrior, and his brother is a magic user. We meet Sturm Brightblade, who is a knight of Solamnia and really devoted to the code and the measure and living a honorable knightly life. We're also introduced to other characters like Tasselhoff Burfoot, who's a Kender. That's a race that's unique to Dragonlance. Wasn't in other D&D campaigns. You can basically think of a Kender as almost like a childlike, tiny, 2 feet, 3 feet tall person with intense curiosity and no fear. They're not afraid of anything, and they're complete, total kleptomaniacs. They steal without realizing they've stolen something. So they would just realize, oh, you dropped your knife, or you dropped your pocket watch, or you dropped your purse of gold. But they actually pickpocketed people without even knowing, because they're just so obsessive that way. So all these different fun characters all get introduced together and then just get thrown into this massive adventure when they thought they were coming to just meet and have a relaxing evening at the inn of the last home. And that's kind of just how it starts. And they just get thrust into this world-changing cosmic gods versus God story.
Oh gosh, just you describing it, it's just bringing back so many awesome memories.
I know. I got goosebumps. I'm like, man, I'm gonna I'm gonna reread it again tonight. I'm gonna go to bed and I got the book right here. I'm gonna have to start reading it again.
Oh my gosh, yes. Steke's favorite, apparently, it's Flint, of course, being the best because dwarf.
The
superior race.
I can see them becoming best friends.
The superior race, as he always likes to say. But when you mentioned the Kinder, I was incredibly annoyed by the Kinder, but somewhere in the second trilogy, actually, something happened where I realized, wait a second, I think I like him.
He's by far one of my favorites. Yeah.
And I remember you saying that. It's like, oh no, they're awesome. And I'm like, are they? Yeah. Are they really? And that's part of the magic of it all, is that you find yourself drawn in almost against your will, if that makes sense, because you're like, I didn't plan on this, but it definitely happened. Here, I've got a better picture here. There we go. This is the first trilogy. So if you were to recommend to people, I would say to go ahead and start with this first trilogy, even though there's something, absolutely. What is it, meetings or something that is before this happens? Am I right on that?
There is. They came out with a prequel series that came out a few years after the 6 original books came out, which is, again, some of the origin of some of the characters. And this is they were fine. They're not great. They weren't written by the original authors. They were written by other people. The thing about prequels is you can't ever do anything really crazy exciting because where all these people end up, right? So they're fine for a little bit of backstory, but you can easily skip them. You don't need that depth of backstory for these characters. You can easily connect with them right away.
Yeah. And I read this trilogy and the trilogy after it. And then that makes me want to read the prequel series, for example, because now I'm in love with the characters. I want to know, how did it happen that they all met? I just haven't gotten around to it because I'm right now in the middle of reading The Wheel of Time and the Cleric Quintet. So I'm a little busy right now.
That'll keep you busy for a while. Yeah.
Yes. I'm so happy that The Wheel of Time is finished, even though sadly Robert Jordan did pass away, but he did have Sanderson do his best with it. Steve Kenobi says, Dragonlance missed a huge opportunity back in the day. Action figures and models of buildings would have sold well.
Yeah.
And Seacross here. Hello. And Steve says, it's like Star Wars. Start with the 2 trilogies. Yes, start with the New Hope and then the prequels and then correct.
Yeah. Well, and then honestly, if someone was to really get into it, I would say you start with the 2 original trilogies. So you start with what's called Chronicles, the 3 that you have up right now. Then you get into the 3 that are Legends. And then honestly, I would go from there and jump to the new series that just came out before even getting into some of the older stuff. Because, again, not to spoil anything, I'm actually just about to post my spoil review of the new trilogy on my channel because it changes stuff. And so, yeah.
Sorry if I made a sound of pain because I'm not sure that's a good thing. What are your thoughts about this?
What are my thoughts about it? I was honestly, when this new trilogy came out, when they announced it and they started, I didn't overly like the first book too much. It just felt like, oh my goodness, they're gonna scrap everything. because Wizards of the Coast, they've not been handling a lot of their properties well, like a lot of other companies over the last few years. So it just felt like, oh no, they're gonna kill Han Solo, they're gonna kill Luke Skywalker, they're gonna just mess it all up. So that's what I was worried about. It didn't do that, so I'm very happy about it, but it did make some tweaks and some changes, and the authors have been very public. Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman have been very public to say, like, if their name's not on the book, for them it's not canon. So all these other books that were written by other people, if they want to use some of it, they will. If they don't want to, they don't want to, because for them, if their name isn't on it, it's not canon, which they were the creators of it, so I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I suppose they have a right to say that. I have mixed feelings, but then again, you've been living with these people far longer than I have. Let's see. Salty Traveling Sea. Hello. I still remember buying Autumn Twilight in the mid-'80s at Walden Books. Great series. I remember Walden Books. Oh my gosh. Yes. Test of the Twins and Time of the Twins are great.
Yeah, I actually think I have one that still has the original price tag sticker on it from Walden Books. So it's kind of funny when you find all these old books in secondhand bookstores. It's great to find the old receipts in them where they still have the old original price tag. It's very cool. It's like this was $1.99, man.
Yes. And I'm a huge advocate of everyone going ahead and buying them as much as you can, the original ones, not the newer ones. First of all, the new covers tend to be unimaginative, but there's just something magnificently retro about that highlight. The 80s and Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance, and all that. It was. I wasn't even into that then, but I knew what it was. It was a thing.
Yeah. Again, I think it was the height of it. Like, I know people would argue against that now. Like, people like, oh, well, there's more players playing today and things like that. And I'm like, fine. And, it is probably more in the public consciousness more today. But it's just not the same. Like, it was just so good back then.
Yeah,
like,
it was so good. It was so creative. It was... Yeah. When it wasn't popular, maybe I find that as soon as these things get popular, it's like it ruins it, because they try to go to the mainstream. Yes, Steve is saying Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, an insane wealth of entertainment right there, about 150 to 300 books each. Yeah, you can be happy with these for the next 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I've been doing. I've been slowly, rebuilding my collection, finding all these old books, finding the Forgotten Realm books, forgotten the Dragonlance books, and just rebuilding, a collection that I got rid of when I was a young adult, 30 years ago, and moving out of my parents' place. Like, I don't need these anymore, and get rid of them. And now, in my 50s, I'm like, no, why did I do that?
I did that with some of my original Star Wars books from the EU, and I'm like, oh, why didn't I keep them? But luckily I was able to, as you do, re-get them.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is such a cliche, but the chicks like Raistlin. We like Raistlin. We like the bad boy.
You like the bad boy, but he's like, he's so, like, again, it's kind of funny, right? It's like, oh, we like the bad boy, but he's like sickly and he's golden and it's like, okay.
And he's terrible.
But he's not a nice person.
No, but he's not just popular with the chicks, but also with the popular consciousness. This character, I think, really caught people's imagination. But on the other hand, the other ones, as you named them, I slowly started to like all of them, including the Kinder. But Flint was pretty unparalleled, I got to admit, as far as really being cool. But yeah, I have to say Raceland is probably my favorite.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty. They had such a great cast in this series of books, and they all had a really good journey to share. Like, you get like Lorana, who's like an elven princess, and she's like she's exactly what you would think of an elvish princess. Like, she's totally spoiled. She just only wants what she wants, and she's a brat, right? And then she becomes a general in the armies against the evil dragons, right? And just her progression is so great. You got Tika Whalen. She's a barmaid.
Yes.
When you're first introduced to her, and then she becomes a warrior during this battle. Like all these characters, they just start off as, they're just people, right? And even like Raceland, I think the reason why he's so popular is people get like the woundedness that we have, right? Like there's the famous expression, right? Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Well, Raceland's a hurt person.
Yeah,
like
we can relate to that on some level.
Yeah, he's deeply wounded, and there's a darkness in him because of that woundedness that plays out. And then even like right to the end, like there's a battle that he's in with that light and darkness. So,
oh, good point. And to tag team with what you said about the women, they're not Mary Sue's. They are incredibly well-crafted women and give light to the fact that there weren't female characters that were strong for us to look up to and to read about.
Yeah.
Steek asks a question. Do you think as we get into our 40s and 50s, we collect the old stuff because we are trying to repurchase our childhood?
That's a great question. I think it's because as we get a little bit older, some of us have more disposable income because our kids have grown up. So we go back and we buy the stuff that we couldn't buy.
There might be some truth to that. Yes, there is. Jason Stahl says, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say too, because we didn't know the value of that stuff, right? Like, and honestly, would we have guessed like in the 80s and 90s that we still wouldn't have this quality of books coming out today?
That's true.
I would never, or like I never would have imagined in a million years I'd be a guy who doesn't like Star Wars anymore. Like who'd figure like no one would, like to this day, everyone, I'm the Star Wars guy. Like, what do you mean you don't like Star Wars? It's like, I just don't like any of the new Star Wars. It's like, I just don't like it. So who would
never have imagined what they did to Star Wars to have happened if they'd have continued on with the EU or adapted the EU. I think we'd all be singing a different tune.
Yeah.
Speaking of treasures, Jason Stahl says, when I purchased a copy of the second edition of The Lord of the Rings, a hardcover box set was $6.95 back in the 60s. Oh my God.
$6.95. And that was a lot of money. $6.95. It's like,
oh dang. And we have a dinosaur in the chat. We love our animals, extinct and otherwise. And so is Soul Assassin. He is here. And Steek says the Dragonlance characters actually get beaten up way more than they dish it out. Yeah.
They do.
Well, Tika, at the end of the first book, she was torn to pieces. She had a dress, and it was like torn to shreds, which is what would happen if a woman was doing all of that.
She's a barmaid with a frying pan against goblins. Like, what is she gonna do? Like, she
exactly, good
she
stuff.
Got walloped.
And not to spoil it, because we're not going to spoil it because it's so big, but as you journey along the way, it is realistic that we will be losing characters. Like, characters will be lost.
Yes.
That will happen. And when it does, it's it's devastating, actually.
It hurts. Yeah. I remember I used to have a copy. So I used to have the original Dragonlance Chronicle books on audiobook. And they were read back in the day. I don't know if it's still like this today, if you can find them. It was read by Peter McNichols. Now, if you don't remember who he was on Ally McBeal TV show. And it turned out this guy was a phenomenal voice actor. And so he would do like all these voices, and it had the sound effects and the dragon roars and the music, all this stuff. And I was like, driving home from college or something like that, listening to these, weeping in my car, like in one of the death scenes. It's so crazy good.
Oh,
yeah, because you just connect with these characters, and they don't all make it to the end, right? So yeah.
Well, and that's what I also think, that entertainment today isn't the same as it was, because it does seem like the older entertainment, we fell in love with the characters. Even Star Wars, for example, if we did not fall in love with Han, Luke, and Leia, the trilogy would have been just nothing. Who
Yeah.
cares? You have to care about the characters. You have to like them. And
That's right.
I think that's the trouble that we're having nowadays, is that people just think of maybe plot, but they don't
That's
think
right.
of the characters. We got to sit with them. We got to live with them. Like the Lord of the Rings. You want to hang out in Hobbiton. And
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You want to be in between that argument between Legolas and Gimli, and keeping score for them, like because of the dynamics that they have and all that, right?
Oh gosh, you're so right. I need to reread the trilogy. It's been about a year or two since I've actually reread them. But looking also here at the dragons, there are dragons actually in Dragonlance. I know it sounds a little silly, but they do make an appearance.
They
do. Yes.
Well, and their appearance is a big deal because they've been gone for like thousands of years, right? So they're just things of legend. And they're incredibly powerful. Like no one knows how to deal with them and there's only evil ones at the beginning. It's like the good ones have disappeared, and so that's the whole quest that goes on. And so, yeah, just watching these people having to deal with something like a dragon, again, where I find stuff nowadays, like you watch it, it's like, oh, it's a dragon. It's like, oh, whatever. I throw it, it doesn't. Yeah, they're too cool for school, and the dragon doesn't bother them. And it's like, no, this is a big deal. These are scary.
Yeah, Happy Dinosaur says this trilogy was so fun and adventurous. Did you ever read the graphic novel version of these?
So I never read the graphic novel version. No, I know they exist. I've looked around for them. Some of them were, I haven't gotten my hands on them yet.
Yeah, a little pricey. Actually, I think the first one might have been the only one that got adapted, now that I'm thinking about it. I forget about it, but I did read the first one. But you can find them on eBay. You have to fork out a little bit of dough. I think
exactly. They're a little bit. Yeah.
Oh,
one of the things I started.
Yeah.
Cool. See, I've been starting to get my hands on the comic book of it. So there's actually there was a Dragonlance comic that came out from DC Comics. So it wasn't about the main characters. It was about like they introduced new characters around the larger story. The art wasn't great, but the stories were really good. And again, kept on that. The whole characters of it were really, really good. So, so I've been slowly kind of finding some of these online and getting my hands on these again, which has been fun.
Now, how much did you play the original, the role-playing game, rather?
I never played it.
Oh.
I never played it. I bought the first module, read it, studied it, loved all the maps, loved everything, bought the campaign boxes. That was back in the day when they had these little, you can make these little standee miniatures, like these little cardboard standee miniatures. I had everything. And then I actually started writing my own sequel campaign to take place a few years after the second trilogy. And I created a whole new villain and everything, and we played once, and that was about it. We never played again.
Oh, but it still sounds like loads of fun. Now,
it was.
I've run across this a little bit as a Christian, but I'm sure maybe you have even as a pastor. Some people believe that these maybe aren't things that Christians should be into. I don't actually, maybe you haven't run into it as a pastor. I've run into it a bit. So I'm just curious, has that been an issue? And what would you say to people that say that Christians shouldn't be reading these?
Right. So it comes from, and I get where it comes from. It comes from, passages of the Bible that talk about like having nothing to do with witchcraft. Okay. That's what the Bible says, right? Like I do believe we live in a spiritual realm. If there are forces of good, then by default, that means there are forces of darkness, forces of evil. And so we have to be mindful of what we dabble with, right? So if someone's conscience says, you know what, I don't think it's good for me to read that, then I say, God bless you, don't read it. Like, listen to your conscience. But I also encourage people, don't take a Bible verse out of context either. Or check yourself when you make that decision. Because if you tell me you're okay with reading the Chronicles of Narnia that has a witch, as the main character and has magic and has a talking lion that does magic, but you're not okay with Harry Potter or you're not okay with Dragonlance. Well, you got to check the motive there, because then it's not about the witchcraft. You're going into something a little bit deeper. You're going into, well, I'll read Narnia because it was written by a Christian, whereas these people weren't. It's like, then you're going way outside what the Bible teaches and you're making up your own law. And I'm very mindful when Christians make up our own law, because there was another group of people who used to do that called the Pharisees, and Jesus had some pretty tough words to them. So, but again, if your conscience says, no, I don't think it's good for me to read this, God bless you, don't read it.
Yeah. But if
don't
we read
create
it, that doesn't mean we're bad Christians if we're reading this.
Yeah, if you like fantasy novels, it doesn't mean you're a bad Christian. And even for myself personally, like I do this, and I talk about this all the time with people, and I talk about this on my YouTube channel from time to time as well too. Like, I'm very mindful of the entertainment that I consume. I don't watch rated R movies. I don't read rated R content, not out of a religious thing because I'm a pastor and I can't. It's like, no, I just don't find it good for my heart. So I'm not going to watch that, So, but this movie or that movie or this book or that book, that's fine. Like I just know where my line is until I just feel like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So everyone's got to go through that, but don't make a religious law where Jesus doesn't make a law.
Yeah, good point. Well, and my personal opinion is to mirror what Robert Jordan said. Fantasy is a place where you can truly talk about good and evil, as you said earlier. It's like, hey,
absolutely.
If you believe in a spiritual battle, good versus evil, where good wins, how can that be antithetical to what we believe?
Absolutely. Like even C.S. Lewis, when he talks about he's been quoted about the Chronicles of Narnia. It says he did not write the Chronicles of Narnia as an evangelistic tool to children. That was not his goal. However, if children recognize, the Christ in Aslan, then that will help them hopefully accept Christ later on in life. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't to evangelize children. That wasn't his point.
Yeah, he wanted to write a story, and as a Christian, of course, it just comes through. Tolkien was very similar, though not as on the nose. Steve Kenobi says, I am a horrible DM for Christians. Oh, I completely forget about them being religious go full already.
I got so many friends like, oh, Rev Kev, sorry, I forgot you're in the room. It's okay, be you. That's okay.
Yeah. Soul Assassin says, I think the big boss would be cool with the stories and epics, my opinion. Yeah. I like what you said about conscience. It's like, people need to. I know that sometimes conscience is misused nowadays, but
absolutely.
But we forget that there is something there with that. It's like that. And if we trust our conscience and check your conscience.
Yeah. Well, and we have the answer. Like, again, as a Bible believing follower of Jesus, and people wonder, well, what should I do? What can't do? Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's all these rules and all these regulations and all this stuff. And, we kind of forget, that, the book of Acts was dealing with that. What do we deal with all these Gentiles who are coming to faith, these non-Jewish people, and the Jewish people want them to keep all their rules and traditions. And the apostles say, no, they don't have to keep that. Mm-hmm. And then we go back 2,000 years later and say, no, screw the apostles. Yes, you do have to keep that. I don't know. I'd listen to the apostle before I'd listen to that person who made some YouTube video how Christians shouldn't get a tattoo. It's like,
how dare you?
Right, but that's just me.
Oh yeah, Steve says, heck, the Bible itself is rather R-rated if you think about it. Noah and his daughters. Oops.
Yeah, we had a guest speaker come to my church once who forgot the kids were in the service that Sunday and picked a text about incest and all that great stuff, and we watched all these parents walk out of the room.
It's like, oops. It's like, oh gosh, awkward. But yeah,
read the memo I send.
Yeah, and again, I think that fantasy. Well, the other thing about fantasy is It's so universal. There's a reason why it's popular all over the world, because everyone from all backgrounds can get stuff out of it. And while there often is some deeper thing, good versus evil, that touches us, that's as old as time. But there is something to be said about they are just stories. Though I do have a belief about stories always showing a spark of the divine. The reason why stories were told were to entertain. You're hanging around the cave. It's winter. You lit a fire. There's, I don't know, dinosaurs outside. Well, no, whatever it is. It's like, hey, did you hear the story about this dude who was minding his own business, and he ran into a witch, and then they had power, and then he married a sister. That's how all those things got started.
Yeah. And they taught a lesson too. Right. They would teach you some kind of lesson. They would teach you about wisdom. They would teach you about, community. They would teach you about thinking, outside of yourself and recognizing the common good, the importance of family, the importance of your community. Like all these kind of lessons were taught through these kind of stories. And that's why they're so universal.
Hubris and pride. And we definitely see that. I'm thinking about Raceland and a few other characters, but definitely, the best of humankind and the worst of it you'll find in these stories.
Yeah, and you got like political pride. Like again, you talk about like all the politics going on in our world today. It's like, well, you know what? When you say, well, we don't want politics in our movies, we don't want politics in our entertaining. Well, it's always been there. There's always been some form of it in there. Like why is this group of elves not speaking to this group of elves anymore? Well, because the Qualinesti elves think they're better than this, or the Sylvanestis think they're better than the Qualinesti, and so they don't even speak to each other and blah blah blah. Like it's like, that's like, how's that any different than this Democrat who doesn't want to speak to this Republican? Guess what? Two humans. Let's go. It's like,
I saw a good
parallels everything.
Oh no, it absolutely does. It's definitely applicable. I saw a good YouTube video addressing that, and this person said, I think what most people mean when they don't want politics, they don't want political activism in their stories. And I think that's a good distinction. Steve points out about Raceland and Kitty Art. Tell me about it. Quite a lot of hubris there. Oh,
exactly. Two people wrestling with the darkness within them and the path that it brings them on. It's like phenomenal characters. Phenomenal.
I really don't like Kitiara, and you know why.
Exactly.
I do not like her. But the fact that a book, even now, I read it like 2 years ago, and I'm still mad at that witch.
I still hate this woman.
Witch that rhymes with a B. Yes.
Exactly. But again, the power of a well-written character.
Yes. And the fact that... sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's the fact that I'm mad at this person. It's like, it's not a person, it's a character in a book. it's like, but we connect with her so much for that.
Well, the fact that Weissman and Hickman have stayed together as a team for 40 years now, that's pretty amazing, because usually there's always the typical falling out, or maybe they're going to run out of ideas, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And they have some of their other books are phenomenal. Like they have a lot of great books. Like I've have almost all of them. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were all in lockdown up here in Canada, like I reread their series, The Deathgate Cycle. It was like, such a good series. I think there's like 7 or 8 books in that. That's really good. They came out with another trilogy called the Dark Sword Trilogy. I just found that at a secondhand bookstore recently. So I'm like, oh, that's my next series I'm rereading. So good.
I have that Dark Sword trilogy too. Steve says she blamed me for Kitiara. Not kidding. Well, I knew it wasn't you, but I did yell at him. This is a good point that Steve says that I didn't give credit to. Hickman's wife deserves tons of credit too. Yes, she was a part of the creation.
Okay, I believe. It's just one of the players, I guess. Like in that party that they had on creating all these characters and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, she was definitely a part of the world building. Have you ever been able to meet them, like maybe at a convention, or had the pleasure?
Never. And the fact that I actually got a message from Margaret Weiss on Twitter last month just made my day, because I ordered the new book from this book company from California. not because we couldn't get the book here in Canada, but because they were selling autographed versions of it. And mine arrived completely, totally destroyed. Just made the comment about it on Twitter, and she responded, "Hey, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know." That just made my day.
Oh, so. I saw that. And speaking of good customer service, we don't see that often in the people we interact with. Some of the more modern entertainers, they don't have that.
Exactly. Yeah, especially like I'm in Canada, like in the company in California, they're like, well, normally when it's damaged in the mail, like our policy is it's not our problem, but they said, oh, but we'll send you another one. So
yay.
So one day, so now I have, because of that, so now I have 2 autograph cards from Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman that came in the book. So at one point, I'm going to give one of them away on my YouTube channel at some point. I'll do something eventually. Maybe when I
got one of those too, because I participated in that as well. I think that it was until they ran out where you could get the signed one with the new book. So I was very excited.
Yeah, I thought the book was going to be signed, but that's okay. And I did this because I thought this was going to be their last book. I don't know why. I just had this funny feeling. This is it. This is the end. Like, this is going to be the end. And then they announced there's another trilogy, Dragonlance trilogy that they're doing that's going to start next summer.
Yeah.
So
now, can you tell us a little bit about the lawsuit that happened? Do you know what exactly went down?
I don't know anything about that, to be honest. It's one of those things where I was like, I should look that up and I should dig into it, but a part of me didn't want to because I don't want to sully anything about my love of Dragonlance. I did, again, because I really, really love Dragonlance, and I'm a big guy. Like I'm big on second chances. That's the way I roll, right? So when TSR came out with their Wizards of the Coast came out with their new Dragonlance module and their new Dragonlance board game, and they were kind of promoting this and pumping it. Like, you know what? I'm getting this. Like, I want to see what they do with it. And so I was gung-ho and supported it and bought it, and it's crap.
Live to regret it.
Yeah.
No good deed ever goes unpunished.
Yeah, it's just not Dragonlance. It's just not. Yeah, it's got all the elements of it, but it's just because you have flying citadels and Kender and white-robed and black-robed wizards and Knights of Solamnia. Just because you call those people that doesn't make it Dragonlance.
No,
there's something in the heart of the characters that's
now, I could have told you that, but
right,
well, you know, I have to learn things the hard way many times in other aspects. So you're saying Weiss did a Viking fantasy duology? I guess that sounds cool.
I have no idea about that one. I know I'm reading another one right now. They did a sci-fi series. I'm reading the first one right now. Guardians, I can't remember what it's called. Guardians of the Star, something like that. I'm totally blanking out on the title. It's Star Wars, but flipped, like totally flipped. Like instead of Evil Empire, it's Evil Rebellion, blah, 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 blah kind of thing. It's pretty good so far.
Yeah, Steve's suggesting David Eddings, but he says, but don't read up on the writer who did some bad stuff in real life. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Jenna Bananas here. Hello. She's saying, Teresa. Hey, Rev Kev. Well, she's happy to see everyone. Yay. Yeah, we love Dragonlance here on Miss Smart Muses. Did you see the cartoon they made?
I did see the cartoon. It was terrible, but at least they tried.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it was one of those things where, like Stig said earlier on, like it's just all these missed opportunities with this property, right? Again, it was a role-playing game company. Like they didn't know about movies and TV shows and comic books and all that, and you have to trust other people, and so you sell the rights and then they do a crummy job, and so yeah, it's again kind of missed opportunity, but it had some big names in it. Like I think Kiefer Sutherland was in it as one of the voice actors. I don't remember who he played. I thought he was Raceland, but maybe
they had a lot of big actors from what I heard. I still haven't seen And of course, we know that the time has passed for any decent live action because we all know what they're going to do to it.
Well, and we know Joe Magnaglio, or whatever, was working on a Dragonlance series, and that Warner Brothers axed it. So that's not happening, that was devastating to hear because he's quite a passionate Dragonlance fan. And so, like, even I think, like in the latest book, like in the acknowledgments, they even thank him in the acknowledgments for this one, for Joe Magnaglio, who showed me the peace we all share in traveling this road together. Tracy Hickman.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because they were working with him on a series, and again, they just don't know what they own. It's like, this is the next Game of Thrones. Like, you can make a ton of money and a whole bunch of people will love it, but...
Or maybe they would have had the studio interference that would have been another Wheel of Time or Rings of Prime, where they say, okay, now you've got to have this kind of a character, this kind of a character, this kind of... Nope, too many men. We've got to change them to women and all sorts of other things.
Well, even with new versions of Dungeons and Dragons, like, you can't have a half elf. You can't have like a half race. Or we don't really, or there's no differences between the race. Like, there's not like penalties anymore for a race because, a dwarf could be just as strong as an ogre, or this is like, just too many.
The whole fifth edition issues. Yes,
it's too politically correct.
And I can't imagine even playing like that. The version that we play of Dungeons and Dragons is a 3.5 edition.
Okay.
Yes. Steve came up with the name. Lucy Lawless and Michael Rosenbaum voice characters in movie 2, Gold Moon and Tannis. So there you go.
Yeah. I tried to watch it again because there's another YouTube channel that Dragonlance Saga that I watch a lot. He's got an awesome Dragonlance channel, and he was doing a review about it or a live stream watching it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. And got like 20 minutes into it. It's like, okay, I gotta do something else.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, we're getting to the point we're going to be going into the Roll 50. So is there anything that you haven't been able to say about Dragonlance that you would like the people in the audience and those watching on the replay to think about?
Honestly, if you haven't read it before, I would strongly encourage you to read it. It's a great read. You will love it. Even if you're not a big fantasy person, give it a shot. And if you have read it before, again, I think I'm going to start rereading it again in the next couple of weeks. So it feels like going back to old friends. So if it's been a long time, it's worth picking it up again. And again, if you haven't read the new series, not as good as the older ones, but it's not bad. It's not bad. And I'm kind of hopeful for what they're going to do with it in the future now.
Well, there we go. Unfortunately, though, they're not getting any younger. So
no, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Get to writing, but as long as the original people are doing it, I will always forgive if it's the original people doing things that I may not agree with. But when it's the other way around, when it's not, that's not okay. It's like, you don't own it. It's not your business.
You didn't create this. Don't break it if you didn't create it.
Precisely. Alrighty. Well, we're going to be going into Roll 7. This is our pub game. So, Steve has one more question before the pub game. Do you like the Dritz books?
Yes.
Have you read those?
I have, very much. Yeah, long time ago. And I, again, just found those as well, too, at the Value Village store. So they're now on my shelf again.
Yep, everyone read Dritz. That's what I'm reading right now. So we have 7. I'm going to roll a D20 7 times, and they correspond to 20 questions. Steve helped me put them together, and my mom. You can answer them as seriously or as silly as you wish, but they're just open-ended, so you're in control. All right. I'm going to go ahead and roll, and everyone in the chat can also participate. So here is roll number 1. Let's see. REV KEV. What fictional place would you like to go to and why?
What fictional place would I like to go to and why? That's a great question. So I think just to stay on topic, I would like to go to the Inn of the Last Home and see if Odik's spicy potatoes are as good as mine.
Ooh,
because I've gotten pretty good at making them.
I want to make the spicy potatoes. I gotta do it. I've got to do it.
I use sweet potatoes now because I'm trying to eat a little healthier.
Oh, hey, sweet potatoes. I love them too. They're great.
Exactly.
All righty. Well, never mind the number. If you could travel back in time, when would you go to and why?
If I could travel back in time, where would I go to and why? I mean, this is the typical pastor answer, right? But there's a lot of things in the Bible I would love to see. And honestly, one of the things that I would love to see, this is going to sound really weird. I'd love to go back in time and see Jesus arguing with the religious leaders and him flipping tables in the temple.
Yes.
Because
him having a hissy fit. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. What would Jesus do? Sometimes flipping tables and whipping people with a cord is a valid response.
I love it.
That was a meme I saw years ago, and I still get quoted all the time. I thought it was so funny.
Because it's funny because it's true. When you mentioned the Bible one, I think that I would, besides seeing Jesus having a hissy fit, would be Moses parting the Red Sea. That would be pretty epic.
That'd be pretty epic too. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, DJ. Play nice. All right. Roll number 3. Where do you feel most out of place?
Where do I feel most out of place? That's a great question. So surprisingly, I'm way more introverted than people think because I have a very public job and like I'm on stage, and public speaking isn't a fear of mine. Like I'm actually very, very comfortable with it. And being in front of a camera, there's no fear of it. But a place where I feel very, very out of place is at a large gathering of people where I don't know anybody. Because if someone doesn't introduce themselves to me, it will be a long night.
I agree. Like cocktail parties, places like that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and in my role as a pastor, like I do a lot of weddings, right? And so sometimes I'll get invited to the reception, but really the only people I know is the bride and groom.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody. And the bride and groom, they're busy, so they can't really hang out with me all night. So it's like,
just sitting there smiling, looking awkward. Yeah. Have they?
Can I go home now? Yeah. Can I go home?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Steve said Moses was at least level 15.
At least.
And he rolled a critical.
That's it.
And
natural 20.
Nat 20, yes. The crazy thing is Jesus will probably call you by name, Rev Kevin, say hello to you.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, tear up the dance floor, Rev.
I do that when I bring my wife. Yeah.
Just break dancing, maybe. Oh dear.
That's it. Crack the vanilla ice and I'll hit the floor.
Tell me something on your bucket list.
Something on my bucket list. Huh. You know what? Honestly, I've never been a big bucket list guy. I'd like to write a book. Like a fantasy. I don't know. I wouldn't mind trying to write something one day.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Your wife beat you to that.
She did. She's a really good writer. I'm not.
All right. Mine's to see the Northern Lights.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of them up here lately. It seems like every other day they're up here in Canada.
Yeah. I'm jealous. Steek says, I have his wife's book. I want it. Oh, you did.
Yep. Yeah, I mailed it to him there. Yeah.
Yep. I bought it from Amazon when it became available in the US. So,
thank you. I appreciate it.
Very inspirational stuff. All right.
Thank you.
Which fictional character do you wish were real?
Oh my goodness. Which fictional character do I wish was real? That's really good. Oh my goodness. There's so many. But again, I'll probably just stay on topic of Dragonlance. I would love to have a friend like Caramon Majer. Like just to have him as your friend because he's so devoted and he's so strong and he's
Oh,
simple, but not in the bad way, not in the insulting way. You know what I mean? Like he's just
yeah.
simple in that, like the complexity of life are just beyond him, and he's just so honorable and friendly and passionate and a big laugh and loves to eat, loves to have a drink. Like just having a friend like that would be awesome.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say the Kinder, but it's all right.
No, yeah, that would be fun, but I like my stuff and I wouldn't want him taking any of it. So,
oh, you're right. You would take everything, all that stuff back there.
Yeah, stop touching my stuff.
Oh. Speaking of politics, oh dear. All right. Yeah, that would be annoying. I forgot about that. Yeah, we went Cameron who wouldn't take your stuff.
Exactly.
What would you do with $1 million?
What would I do with $1 million? I would pay off a number of different things. And then I would support a number of different charities that are very passionate to me. Mm-hmm. And I would love to work salary free. Like I would actually still do the same job that I do, but not take a salary for it and use that money to support other people's work. Like either like maybe some smaller struggling churches or some missionaries or things like that. I once read about a pastor who wrote a book, and made tons and tons of money off of it. And so he actually, when you hear people who tithe, they give 10% and live off of 90. He does the opposite. He lives off of 10% and gives away 90. Dang. And that resonated with me like big time. So if I could, do the job that I'm doing, but not have to worry about the salary of it and use that money for other stuff, that's what I'd want to do.
Soul Assassin says 1 million tacos.
Exactly.
I would completely waste it on nerdy stuff.
That was implied, Stig. That would happen as well.
I'd give away a lot of it.
The geek corner would become the geek room.
Yes. All right. And last but certainly not least, we already did that one. I would say get a lottery ticket when you get the same numbers.
There you
go. What is your favorite movie and why?
My favorite movie and why? It's changed recently. Like a few years ago, I probably would have said Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi was always my favorite movie. But now, and I saw this a couple of years ago. So I went and saw this movie a couple of years ago when it came out, and I got invited to it at a premiere. So it's a war movie. It's Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge. And I got invited to go see it. A friend of mine used to work for a local radio station, so he got invited to like press stuff. So he brought me with him, and we got to go see that movie with retired Canadian veterans. And seeing a war movie like that filled with war veterans in the theater, like when the movie was like, oh my goodness, but just the way the room was just so focused on what was being shown. It was very, very powerful. So it was kind of the experience plus the movie, but that story again of this Christian guy who was a pacifist who really felt that he needed to serve his country in the war, but would refuse to touch a gun, refuse to take a life. Like I have goosebumps, like powerhouse story. Like that, just love it. That's probably my favorite movie of all time right now.
Wow. And I'm looking at this. He won the Congressional Medal of Honor without having fired a shot. My goodness.
Without firing a single bullet. Yeah, he saved so many people. There's a scene, and the scene's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. So he saves all these people. So they go back to try to take the ridge again. And so everyone who used to mock him, obviously they don't mock him anymore. And the commander's there with the radio and like, hey, why haven't you gone yet? Why haven't you gone yet? And he's like, because Sarge, I can't remember the character's name, but he's not done praying. So when he's done praying, then we'll storm that hill, but we're not leaving until he's done praying.
By that point, they probably figured it out. It's like, wait a second. It's a good one. Well, I need to watch that. Yeah. I'll tell you what, there's so many good movies like that. And especially watching it with veterans because
Oh,
until
it was
you've been in
crazy
a war,
powerful.
you a person can't imagine. I will never be able to imagine.
No, I have no concept of it. I can't imagine it. So
yeah, because no matter what anyone says, it's like until you've been through it, it's like kind of shut up and be quiet. Yeah.
Yep.
Zeke says,
much.
Jaws always will be. That's perfect movie.
Great. It is.
Oh no.
You know what?
Velocipaster.
You are the second person in a week to mention that movie to me. So I play squash with a guy who I've met recently. So it's becoming a good friend. And so we play squash on Fridays and he loves that movie. And he's like, you got to watch that movie. It's so good. So
yeah, it's so bad. It's good. My nephew made me watch it, but it's surprisingly somewhat redeeming. But yeah, it's very low budget, incredibly low budget. Yeah, Steve likes Hacksaw Ridge. He said it was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, it stars what's his name? Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield. No, Andrew Garfield.
Oh.
He's the main character in it. Yeah.
There it is, a true story of Peter Desmond D. Doss. Okay, well I'm gonna have to put that one on my list right now. I'm watching spooky movies right now, but I will for sure give it a go. Yeah, Velocipaster. Just the poster alone is worth.
I gotta look that up
it's
now.
Just worth looking at. It's yeah,
oh my goodness.
It's something else. It's something else. I'll definitely say that. You know, it's not my favorite movie of all time, but what you said also reminded me of the movie Chariots of Fire. I always liked that, based on the true story, how he wouldn't run on Sundays. He was really hardcore about the Sabbath and sacrificed a gold medal for it. That was a pretty powerful movie as well.
Is he fighting ninjas in this Velocipaster?
Yeah, it's yeah. And he transforms into a raptor and, can kill everyone. Because, a raptor can take on a ninja. Six says you need to watch the Mythica movies. It's D&D movies done right. Oh.
Okay. I don't know those ones.
Yeah, when the Velocipaster, when the cleric multi-classes with druid. No. Oh dear. There's a part of me that doesn't know if I can recommend that movie in good conscience to you, because there is definitely some questionable morality in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, great. Steve has a slogan. You won't get the rapture. You will get the raptor.
Nice.
Nice. All right. Well, we are out of time here because the pastor, speaking of which, he does have some places to be. So can you tell us where we can find you, what you have going on or not going on?
Yeah, I mean, the main place to find me is over on my YouTube page. It's REV KEV, Geek Corner. You can find that there. I just do that really for kicks and giggles. I just do different conversations about things that I'm into, different board games, different books, different comics. And yeah, just kind of have lots of fun building some community over there. And so that's the main thing. I also have a couple of other things that I've taken a bit of a break on, but I'm getting back into it. I'm also a certified DDP yoga instructor and coach. And so I'm getting that YouTube channel relaunched and getting some fitness and some wellness from a Christian perspective going, kind of looking at body, soul, and spirit and how we can improve our wellness. So that's another big thing that I work on as well.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I remember when you put some pictures up maybe about a year ago, and you're there with a bunch of ladies. I won't say old ladies, but you're all about, we're all middle-aged now. And it was it was really
it's a lot of fun.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say cute in association with the yoga stuff, but they all had their mats. And it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right, and you can find me here on Miss Smart Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. I am going to be on Dark Hour this Saturday talking about The Sixth Sense. I'm going to be 2 weeks talking about The Omen on Nordporial's channel. I do have some more Tolkien letters relevant to the Rings of Prime coming up, as well as my various musings. So give me please a like, share, and a subscribe. Oh my goodness. Steve says that he had been unsubbed to Red Kev fixed it. Yeah, YouTube will do that sometimes.
I know, it's weird. Yeah, I lost a few for a while. Like it kind of had a big drop, and then it seems like it's slowly building back up again.
Yeah. So please, everyone, double check to make sure that you are still subscribed to the RevKev and to me, for that matter. So, and of course, we all send our prayers for the people in Florida that they, stay safe, or if, God forbid, there's some damage, that they're able to, get out safely for their and them, theirs and theirs. Wait, theirs. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about pronouns. I mean, they're loved ones. My folks they're not going to be in the big path of it, but they're going to get some of it. But they're hunkering down, and many other friends of the channel are as well, those that live in the Orlando area. So, order off.
Sure.
Everyone. Yeah. Oh, Soul Assassin has put up your channel, and
thank you.
Yeah. And go ahead, everyone, and make sure that you're subscribed over at Jade Shadow. Tonight, Steve's going to be on talking about their favorite movies of 1992. And I want to thank Steve Kenobi for being here. Soul Assassin. Steve's crazy. Don't listen to him, though. Don't take. Yes.
That's bad advice.
Like being outside in hurricanes. I'm sure it's a blast. So we had Soul Assassin, Steve Kenobi, we had DJ Play Nice, Jana Banana popped in. We also had Happy Dinosaur. We love our prehistoric animals here at Miss Martin Muses, and all of those that will be listening on the replay. Thank you for being here. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to go out and read the Dragonlance novels.